humanitarian and explorer Kingsley Holgate is from today embarking on a 30,000-kilometer journey for different causes. He will go through 30 countries in Africa and Europe. He joins us now for more on his journey. Mr. Holgate, thank you very much for speaking to us. Quite excited to have this conversation with you. There's no country on the African continent that you have not seen. Let's start with the first ever expedition that you did and your reasons for embarking on that journey.
Good to connect with you today. I just pulled over on the side of the road. The journey, we're already on the journey, so I hope you're getting a clear enough signal. But yes, you know, this passion for Mama Africa that we have started a long time ago. And I remember one of the first expeditions that was so important to us was with with South Africa becoming a true democracy, the release of Nelson Mandela from prison. And at that time, we were able to take off on an expedition that took us all the way from the Cape of Good Hope to Cairo and Alexandria in Egypt, all in open boats, following the rivers and lakes of Africa. It was a wondrous journey, and it made us feel true citizens of the greater continent of Mama Africa, where despite our bad politics of the past, we were now accepted as being part of the broader Africa. So it was a wonderful journey.
You're approaching, please correct me if I'm wrong, close to 40 of these expeditions. And it's not just about seeing the beauty, that is within the continent or of the continent. There's also some good that you are doing, especially where malaria is concerned.
Yes, indeed. This journey is very strongly linked to the fight against the killer disease of malaria, specifically in southern Mozambique, where we are linked to Goodbye Malaria, which was an organization founded by the founder of Nando's, Robbie Brosen, and myself many years ago, and has grown into a massive force in the fight to protect people against malaria, particularly mums and kids who are the most vulnerable. So the result of all that hard work over many years, well over a decade, with indoor residual spraying and education and the distribution of mosquito nets, the result of all that is more than 3 million people kept safe from malaria. So it's been a wonderful initiative. It's a true collaboration of so many people, so many organizations. And this journey that we're on now, having just left from Constitutional Hill, really embraces this fight and this need to fight malaria. As you're so aware, with the COVID pandemic, the foot was taken off the accelerator, the eye off the ball, and in many cases, malaria incidences have increased. So we need to keep the pressure on, and that will be our first call to action on getting to the south of Mozambique.
A saying comes to mind, it's often attributed to the continent, that if you think you're too small to make a difference, then try spend a night with a mosquito in a closed place. What are you faced with, or what have you been faced with throughout these journeys? Some of the things that you see, there are some parts of the continent that are faced with, instability in terms of security issues. So while you're seeing the beauty, you're also seeing the rawness and the realness of things on the ground.
Absolutely. I mean, this journey through 30 countries is going to be just one of those challenges, because, as you know so well, the situation in Ethiopia at the moment is difficult. So our journey is going to take us up through Mozambique. You would know that the last few days has seen terrible flooding on the Zambezi and Zambezia province, and also up into Malawi. So that in itself is going to be a challenge. You can well imagine the spread of malaria after these floods. So yes, we'll make our way up through Mozambique into Malawi, from Malawi into Tanzania to Kenya, and of course into Uganda to do some really good work there before taking an unusual route. And it's the first time, I think possibly in some 30 years, that a team of adventurers would have crossed all of South Sudan, given that the border between North and South Sudan, as a result of some successful peace talks, is now open again for the first time in many, many years. So our journey will take us, we'll be obviously going down the Nile, so to speak, all the way from Uganda. Huge need for malaria work and for one of our other causes, the distribution of supply of reading glasses to poor-sighted, mostly elderly people, the work we do with the provision of clean drinking water. So yes, all the way across southern Sudan into northern Sudan, which in itself has got some challenges at the moment, especially around Khartoum. And then, of course, into the Nubian Desert, across to Egypt, down to Cairo, Alexandria, and then, of course, these 3 Land Rover Defenders would get shipped over to Greece, Eastern Europe, the Balkans. I do hope the situation in the Ukraine has settled down by that time. That's another challenge. And then Finland. And because this journey is really hot Cape to cold Cape, in other words, we departed from Cape Agulhas, the most southerly point of Africa, of the African continent, where the 2 oceans meet, the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic. And of course, this dream of ours in this humanitarian journey is to then reach the northernmost cape in Europe, namely Nordkapp within Norway's Arctic Circle. So, yes, from hot Cape all the way to cold Cape, and then thereafter down to Anglesey in Wales, where we will end the journey by emptying the calabash of seawater that we've carried from Cape Agulhas into Red Dwarf Bay, into the Irish Sea, on a beach, Red Dwarf Bay, where the first Land Rover was sketched in the sand by Maurice Wilkes in 1947. And that will be some 75 years later that we arrive at that spot. So huge challenges ahead, some geopolitical challenges, all sorts of road and desert conditions. But we're hugely excited, and leaving from Constitutional Hill this morning was so meaningful, as the scroll of peace and goodwill that we carry on every journey was endorsed by so many in front of the eternal flame of our new democracy.
Huge challenges ahead, but that doesn't stop you. You keep going again and again and again. What is it? There's a bug that bit about this continent. Not only are we, having, or are we fortunate with warm weather, but we are a warm people. Does that play a factor, and you're always going back?
Absolutely. We really fortunate to have been born under African skies. We're driven by a passion for Mama Africa. We believe that Africa has got a major role to play in the future of the world, and we remain hugely optimistic. We often say, Mama Africa, all good, all bad, all at the same time, but always challenging and always beautiful. So, the cultures, the wildlife, the spectacles, but also that wonderful feeling of Ubuntu that we see across Africa. So our passion for this continent is what drives us, and the byline to our adventures is using these Land Rover adventures to improve and save lives. And the work we do with Goodbye Malaria has just been so heartwarming and so satisfying to see that good people can make a difference.
What are some of the diciest moments that you can remember?
Did you say nastiest?
I beg your pardon?
Did you say nastiest moments?
Diciest.
That's okay. Well, there are those sort of regular challenges. Very often it's wildlife in camp, lions in camp, a crocodile chomping a boat. There's those sort of typical challenges of African travel. But of course, and then there's those geopolitical issues that we talked about. We have in the past places like the Central African Republic been taken by warlords, being interrogated, faced all sorts of challenges. And I remember once a warlord and everybody heavily armed, and it seemed that it would cost me my life, but then after a thorough interrogation just slapping me on my back and saying, "We didn't kill you because you're just so friendly." And so I guess we've been lucky. People sometimes ask us what's the most important thing that we can take on these journeys of discovery. And I always say, well, it's an empty seat or two so that we can travel with local Africans, learn about cultural differences, learn about the excitement of Africa. And at the same time, that's what keeps us alive, going with local information, local knowledge, local language, and going at the pace of Africa. And, you know, it's been a virtual lifetime of traveling to every single country on the African continent. So, yes, I won't deny that all of us, the whole team, have that feeling of nervous anticipation as we make our way from Constitutional Hill to Mozambique.
Kingsley Holgate, I'm there with you in spirit. Have a marvelous, safe, life-changing journey once again to you and your team. We look forward to the return from that expedition, rather. Thank you.
Thank you. It was lovely chatting to you, and let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Kingsley Holgate is a humanitarian and an explorer.